Liz Truss was appointed in July this year and works closely with the Prime Minister to prepare international trading partnerships for the post-Brexit period. She voted Remain in the Brexit referendum, but has since changed her mind, saying her original economic concerns had not eventuated. She's been a vocal Boris Johnson supporter from the beginning and says a no-deal option can't be ruled out. Secretary Truss, thank you very much for your time.
Great to be on your show.
Why would any Australian business currently make plans to invest in the UK, given the epic amount of political and economic uncertainty?
Well, I don't agree with you about uncertainty. We're very clear. We're leaving the European Union on the 31st of October.
Secretary, you say that there's not uncertainty, but we don't know whether there's going to be a Brexit with or without a deal. It doesn't seem that there's a clear plan at all.
There is a clear plan, which is we want a deal, but we're very well prepared if there isn't a deal. If there isn't a deal, we'll be trading on WTO terms, something I'm sure your viewers are very familiar with because Australia trades on WTO terms successfully with many other countries. And of course, what I'm out here to do is to get deals with countries like Australia, making sure that we're trading on even better terms than WTO, and there are lots of opportunities out there.
If you exit the EU without a deal, which is a strong possibility, there could be delays at ports, there could be a fall in the pound, any number of other unforeseen issues. Can you see why an Australian business might think, well, let's just hold off for now?
What I would say is that the fundamentals of the British economy are extremely positive. That we're the third largest country in terms of number of billion-dollar tech firms in the world. We're attracting more investment in that industry than any other country in Europe, in fact, than France and Germany put together. We're investing in new infrastructure across the UK, and we've got very low unemployment rates because of our economic success.
You say Britain's fundamentals are extremely positive. Your own Office for Budget Responsibility, which analyses the UK's public finances, says a no-deal Brexit would cause a UK recession. Many economists and business groups share that view. Those fundamentals that you point to could change rapidly.
Well, we've got a very positive plan ahead of us, which has been set out by the Prime Minister. And ultimately, the success of any economy is all about businesses investing, people working hard, and a successful set of government policies. And that's what we've got under Prime Minister Johnson. He set out a vision about how we can level up across our country. But we can't be in a position, Leigh, of agreeing to any terms that the EU put on the table. In any deal, you do have to be prepared to walk away, and that's what we're saying. Of course we want a good deal, but Britain will do well whatever terms we trade on with the EU, whether that's WTO terms or whether it's a free trade deal.
Prime Minister Johnson says progress is being made towards a Brexit deal. After meetings in Europe yesterday, European leaders said the opposite. Who's telling the truth?
Well, in negotiations, people say all kinds of things to try and improve their position. The reality is we are closer to getting a deal, but can we guarantee that? No. What I can guarantee is that we've got all the preparations in place, regardless of what happens, that will mean that Britain continues to be successful in the future.
When you say you're closer to getting a deal, where has the progress been made?
Well, the progress has been made on the issue of the backstop. We were very concerned about the backstop because that would have essentially meant it would be very hard for the UK to leave the customs union and the single market. And without doing that, we wouldn't be able to do the deals with countries like Australia that could improve our country's prosperity. So that is the area where we are making progress on those talks. The Prime Minister's in those negotiations. We've had a positive response so far, but there's obviously more work to be done.
Why is Britain so determined to leave the EU by October the 31st, even if it doesn't have a deal? Why not extend the deadline to avoid the possibility of negative or unforeseen consequences?
Well, we've already extended once, and there's a massive frustration amongst the British people. They voted to leave the European Union 3 years ago. We need to deliver on that. The fact is that limbo creates uncertainty, and what the Prime Minister is doing by setting the deadline for the 31st and being clear that we will meet that deadline, that will end the uncertainty. It will give people confidence to invest in our country going forward under any scenario. We can't continue with a situation where what the British people voted on doesn't get delivered.
As we know, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson asked the Queen to prorogue the Parliament, and the Supreme Court's having a look at that now. Firstly, at whether it is in fact a matter for the courts, and then if so, whether it was lawful conduct. If the court rules that it was not, will Prime Minister Johnson immediately reconvene the Parliament?
I'm not going to answer a hypothetical question. I believe that he was absolutely right in proroguing Parliament. It's standard practice before a Queen's speech where we set out new legislation. The fact is there hasn't been a Queen's speech for a considerable time in the UK. It's right that Prime Minister Johnson was able to get on with his programme. But the important thing in the UK is what we really need is an election. Because the fact is that Parliament and various elements of Parliament have stopped progress on delivering Brexit. There isn't agreement across Parliament, and we need an election to make sure that we are able to action what people want us to do.
Secretary, it may be a hypothetical question, but it is a realistic one, and it's a very simple question. If the Supreme Court gives the PM a directive, will he obey it?
It is a hypothetical question.
And as I say, it's quite realistic.
I can't comment on precisely exactly what judgment the Supreme Court is going to give out in that case, but I'm not going to comment on a court verdict before we've even heard it.
Secretary Truss, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leigh Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.